Welcome, everyone, to Progressive Discussions. I am your host, Comrade James P. Madonna, and I would like to welcome my co-host, the one and only Comrade Damian Owens. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. Enjoying my new job in the deli. I knew it was going to be hard work. Didn't think it was going to be this hard, but I mean, I'm enjoying it. Will I stay in this department for the entirety that I work where I'm working now? Probably not. It was great for some experience in cross training, but I'd like to go back to front end now.
I think you paying your dues will eventually come to an end, and you will go where you want to go, which is hot food preparation, right?
That or just, doing something else, because now I've got it down. It's just becoming a bit too redundant.
Yeah. Well, at least you have a work shift that you can live with.
Right.
Thank God. Okay, because that other thing, going from day shift to night shift to day shift to mid shift, I mean, you were sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Okay, now to the theme, and it's a humdinger. Social media. Everyone, of course, knows what social media is. It caters to the general public, and I cannot overemphasize the word general public because there's a wide range there. Now, social media also, besides being a place for fun and games and people sharing like-minded interests based on their hobbies, their passions with other like-minded people that have the same hobbies and passions that they do. It's also a place where people debate politics and just about every subject known to mankind. There's great music videos. There's great nature videos. There's something for everyone on social media. Now, that being said, and getting back to the general public, you have undesirable things happening. You have trolls, which really have no life. So they have to get under everyone's skin and push their buttons. Then you have difference of political views clashing and bucking heads. All right, now, but there's something more upsetting, much more upsetting than bucking heads with the general public, which I used to do in the old days, but luckily I don't do anymore. Comrade James pushed that not to the back burner, but into the distant past, thank God. Now, it started with Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, and it seems like all the others have followed. Twitter, YouTube, they are all using the words or the term community standards. Hello, Johnny Ringo. Good evening to you, sir. They're all using the term community standards, which sounds nice, but it started off nice with good intentions, like a lot of things start off. The original definition of community standards is to prevent cyberbullying and inciting violence, hatred, bigotry, discrimination online, on social media, because somehow they think they're going to make everyone's online experience a pleasant one. Well, guess what? That's not realistic. Because what they're doing is they're using the pleasant words, community standards, as a way of implementing corporate fascist censorship. Denying you your First Amendment rights of freedom of speech by censoring you. And if you don't march in lockstep with the people that run the social media company, you get punished, you get penalized, you get temporarily suspended, where you cannot use any of the functions, and then they eventually bring you back. Well, guess what? I spoke the truth about the Democratic candidates for the 2020 campaign. And I said what I said about feminazi Amy Klobuchar, the annoying, shaky, nasal twang woman who has a feminist power agenda, which is based on not liking men that much, to put it mildly. And she's not shy about mentioning it, that the next president of the United States will be a she. She will be the next president, especially her. But a woman will be elected should be elected across the board everywhere. So where it sounded like she wants to phase men out of the picture. So she kept on saying, and this is what I did. I mentioned that Pete Buttigieg, touchy-feely, creepy Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar, and Elizabeth Warren, gooseneck herself, who admitted she's a capitalist. She embraced capitalism, just like Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar. They weren't shy about mentioning that more than once. Of course, they're kissing up to the oligarch that gives them the big fat campaign contributions. And they're capitalists. They keep mentioning it. And Amy Klobuchar started saying, Americans are not ready for socialism. Americans don't want socialism. She sounded like Mitch McConnell when he always says, the American people are not going to stand for this. The American people are not going to stand for this left-wing this and left-wing that, and liberal this and liberal that. America. How does Mitch McConnell, ugly old turtle face, and particularly how does the nasal twang, very annoying, nails across the chalkboard, Amy Klobuchar, know what the asses of the masses really want? How does she know the American people do not want democratic socialism and are not ready for it? because it seems like Bernie Sanders is really on a roll, kicking all of their asses. So I called Amy Klobuchar on Twitter a bitch. Some feminazi must have ratted me out on the post was made by a female progressive democratic socialist where under the account leftward swing posted the article or the video, and I made the statements about all the candidates being corporatists, being centrists, being on the take from the fat cats, and embracing capitalism and bashing socialism, including Amy Klobuchar. But as soon as I called her a bitch, some man-hating feminazi must have ratted me out. And guess what? My Twitter account has been permanently suspended, and they warned me if I try to start another account under another name, because they ask for your phone number. And as soon as I type in my phone number, my name comes up. So I am permanently banned from Twitter. So when I say I'm calling out Twitter, I've seen and heard the CEO of Twitter. He's a scrawny geek. He's a pencil neck geek, just like Pete Buttigieg and Mark Zuckerberg, but he's much worse than Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg allows a lot of freedom of speech within reason. But this guy is like a Mark Zuckerberg from hell. This guy is a worse of a control freak than Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know his name. I should have researched his name, but the CEO of Twitter is a scrawny pencil neck geek that probably got smacked around by all the football jocks, probably smacked the shit out of him. And now that he's the CEO of Twitter, this is his phallus symbol. This is his extension of his manhood, is to be the CEO of Twitter and having lots of money and lots of power. So you're a punk. You're a punk. You have keyboard courage. And I would definitely bitch slap you around before I punch the shit out of you, knock your scrawny ass out, or maybe put you in a guillotine MMA submission hold and just snap your chicken neck for taking away one of my social media pleasures of all time, Twitter. But I do have Tumblr. I have Tumblr. And I have YouTube and I have Facebook. But you are a scrawny pencil neck geek, low-life scum, dirty, rotten piece of shit. And as far as Amy Klobuchar is concerned, you do not know what's in the minds of the mainstream masses of America. The mainstream masses of America are angry. They're more pissed off during the 2020 campaign than ever before. And that's why Bernie Sanders is on a bigger, momentous role. And the momentum is, I think, greater than 2016, where, by the way, the DNC screwed him over with Deborah Wasser cunt shits. But now we have the scrawny, buck-toothed weasel, Tom Perez. And you know what? Even though I know he has a selfish motive by defending Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, there is method to his madness. He's defending Bernie Sanders against the DNC. And I agree with him. Don't trust the DNC. But I know what he's doing. He does. He is very slick. Okay. Oh, that's you. Hello there, Metal Rocker 94, the gaming master of all times. Johnny Ringo says, clearly the voters are rejecting Amy Klobuchar's message. Oh, she's such a annoying nasal twang. Could you imagine listening to her? If she's married, they have to hear that nasal voice. It's like Pam Drescher, the nanny, you know. Clearly the voters are rejecting Amy I'm trying to think of a really degrading nickname for her. Klobuchar's message. Even the media, DNC, and super PACs can't save her. Yeah, because I've been listening to Bernie Sanders rallies. He's got quite a following there, and they're boisterous and loud, and they kind of sound like my favorite Bernie Sanders. Grassroots revolution. Let's just, because he says it's not about me, it's us. So let's just say grassroots revolution, democratic socialism. Okay, the Bernie Bros, which are more abrasive and they're militant, and they're not afraid of, if they have to, not bashing in some heads. Why do you think I have this woolen military red beret to stick in the craw of all you capitalists that insist that America will always be a capitalist country and America will never be a socialist country, because they unjustly demonize socialism because they don't know. They're not smart enough to know what Karl Marx really wrote in his, Communist Manifesto.
Yes.
And they're mixed totalitarian communism, which is a tainted, more corrupt version of the original communism. It's a military dictatorship, is what it is, more or less. They keep mixing and combining it, because they want to demonize it, because the oligarch, the fat cats, want the right wing to demonize all socialism. Just like the medical profession lies to people about demonizing all fats, where fats, essential fats, are one of the most important nutrients known to man. Okay, and you notice back in the day when people consumed lard, they were much healthier. You didn't hear about all this cancer and heart disease. Lard, pork rinds is high in nutrition. Okay, the good fats. They lie. Capitalist society is loaded with lies. Forget about Donald Trump. He's an entertainer. Just push him aside. The right-wing movement has always lied to the American people. And Mr. Damian Owens woke me up. I saw the light, like that old Christian song. I saw the light, about the Second Amendment, by the way. He woke me up. He woke up. Comrades! All right. Now, Johnny Ringo say, Jack Dorsey? That's not Jack Dempsey? No, he was a fighter. Jack Dorsey? Jack Dorsey. Who's Jack Dorsey?
I assume maybe the CEO of Twitter. I mean, I don't really get on
No.
Twitter all that much.
Oh, wait a minute. Is Jack Dorsey the CEO of Twitter? Mr. Johnny Ringo? Hey, you notice the devoted right-wing supporter, Mr. Ronnie S. is not here. Ronnie S., are you here?
Oh, are you?
Are you here? I'm glad. If you're here, I'm glad you let me go do my monologue first. Thank you. Wait a second. Hold that note. Let me get my Blackthorn Shillelagh. Oh, Miss Shillelagh, I love it. Oh, the leprechaun stick. You son of a... Hold on. The shamrock of authenticity. Oh, me Lucky Charms. Where's me gold? Where's me gold? Jack Dorsey? Sounds Irish. All the more you would enjoy this upside your head, you punk. You took away my Twitter account. I enjoy Twitter. I used to talk to many people. I have many friends on Twitter, including the organization, the socialist organization that started the trend of the Red Berets, except the only difference is I'm the only one. You know, they got a bunch of crocheted red berets that were made on Etsy.com. I'm the one that looked for the real military style woolen beret with the ribbon in the back. Because if you're going to do a professional show, at least look professional. Jack Dorsey, you scrawny punk, you pencil neck geek. I swear to God, I would love to be in a room with no witnesses and just bash you around for what you did to my Twitter account. You denied me my First Amendment rights. Corporate fascist censorship. That's what community standards is really about. And guess what? Who do they censor the most? The truth tellers and the truth seekers. Now, I'm going to sip some water because I don't have any beer or booze in the house or wine. I have nothing. And I'm going to give it over to Comrade Damian Owens. You dig where I'm coming from, man?
Yes, I dig where you're coming from, man.
There he is, Comrade Owens.
Yes. So let's touch on the first thing that it was the biggest thing you talked about was community standards and how ultimately they're going to come back and bite the CEOs of, Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube and any other various social platforms, because there underlies a big legal issue. And this is no surprise that it is an issue because of just how much capitalism loves to control people, but also loves to control property. Now, this is where it is going to come back and bite them. See, community standards, as you said, yes, they start off with good intentions. However, I can kind of tell the direction you're going with this. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's that old saying, how it goes. But here is where there's going to be the biggest legal issue of all. You cannot claim certain aspects to a website for censorship without creating a big First Amendment issue. Because essentially, here is what they are doing. And whenever I do become a lawyer and I go to law school, I pass the state bar, do all that, I'm actually going to file a lawsuit against Facebook and Twitter and other various social platforms because they're trying to claim intellectual property illegally. And here's how they're doing it. When you do the community standards, they're basically trying to say, we own this website, but we also own the contents of said website. Well, I hate to burst their bubble, but you don't own someone else's intellectual property just because they're on your website. Like, yes, you posted it on this particular website, but it's still not their property. They want to claim it is, but it can't be because they're not the ones who created this post. An individual did. This is an individual's thoughts, ideas, expression, etc., not theirs. So legally, they cannot claim that property as their own. And that's where it's going to come back to bite them in the ass, is they're creating a huge intellectual property issue. Now, intellectual property falls under the guise of personal property, not private property or public property. That still is categorized under personal because it still is, your personal thoughts, your personal feelings, expressions, what have you. So that's where it's going to come back to bite them. Now, the Supreme Court has also said that, the First Amendment and freedom of speech does not apply to corporations and also does not apply to various social media platforms. Because let's face it, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or whatever social media website that's big, they are a corporation. They do make money, no matter how you want to present this. At the end of the day, they still do make money to some degree or another. So, while the Supreme Court has ruled on this, ultimately, they're going to have to hear this case again because of intellectual property issues. And the Supreme Court, yes, what they say goes, the buck stops there. But if they refuse to hear this case, then inadvertently, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, and they're also going to ruin their credibility in terms of, carrying out the law of the land. And the supreme law of the land is the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution applies to anything and everything inside of the U.S. border. Now, granted, these websites also have to adhere to international laws as well. But we're not focusing on the international issues, what's going on in other countries. We're just focusing exactly what's going on here in the U.S. So this right now is a U.S. issue. Now, other countries are, more strict or more lenient when it comes to free speech. So it's going to be curious as to exactly how this plays out with other countries. But here in the U.S., I definitely see a lot of shit coming on down the pipeline. And it's shit that needs to come on down the pipeline because this needs to happen. This needs to be done because if not, they're going to keep doing it and they're just going to get worse and worse and worse. And finally, we're just going to have to just say, you know what? Fucking fuck the fuck off with this bullshit. Enough is enough. Now, if we do go down this road, ultimately, Facebook and YouTube would also have to be regulated outside of them being seized from private individual control, which needs to be done because obviously we've tried this with a private individual and it's just not worked. So if it's seized and put under different control where they actually want to abide by our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, expression, now granted not 100%, but within the bounds of established Constitution-protected free speech. Now, the second point, what Karl Marx wrote. Karl Marx wrote about socialism being inherently democratic. So democratic socialism is really just a meaningless, pointless term. Now, there is, peaceful, free, democratic socialism, but the way that Karl Marx presented, yes, it's still democratic, but it is totalitarian, a dictatorship of the proletariat, not necessarily a military dictatorship, but I guess you could argue a militant proletarian, a militant worker state style socialism, which is also known as scientific socialism because it takes the ideas of socialism, because the idea of socialism has been around for many, many years. Even back to ancient societies, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, Mesopotamia, what have you. Socialism was talked about in a variety of different ways. Same thing with the medieval period, even to the Renaissance, and now modern day. It's just Karl Marx took all the ideas of socialism in the past and either proved what was correct or is incorrect and did a scientific method. So, again, democratic socialism, completely meaningless. Socialism is democratic. Now, where it comes into the militant part is the dictatorship of the proletariat, meaning, the workers, the peasants, and the autonomous third party or third class or any other parties that are not part of the bourgeoisie were the ones that have control. So under capitalism, the bourgeoisie have control. Proletarians do not. Under socialism, it's the other way around. Capitalists do not have power. Proletarians have control. Now, if you want to actually have a say in what actually happens, then you would need socialism because their vote would really matter and it would really count. So if you are dissatisfied with the way things are running, take your ass to the polls. And whoever gets the majority of votes, that's what's going to happen.
That's right. No, one vote, one man, no super delegates, no electoral college. Just scrap it all, and then you'll have a fair election. Now, you know how I first found out my Twitter account was permanently suspended? One of the socialist activists posted that her crazy landlord No, it was a male. I'm sorry. His crazy landlady. I'm sorry. His crazy landlady was banging on his door, and he was wondering what was going on. He thought it was an emergency. She demanded to know who he is voting for in the Democratic primaries and in November in the final election, demanding. And it made me think of what you said before of just because a company owns a website does not give them the right to dictate your intellectual property and to censor your freedom of speech under the constitutions. So it's and then when I attempted to post my comment that all she's obligated to do is collect the rent that was agreed upon and make repairs when necessary.
Right. Well, she did that one right.
Yeah, your personal life is none of her damn business. And that's when I found out that my Twitter account was suspended. Now, getting back to capitalism, of course, it's a proven failure from day one. It's always been rigged for the oligarch, top 2%, top 1%, whatever you want to call it, plutocracy, oligarchy. They're kind of interchangeable. It's always been rigged for them, and it's just a proven failure because since 1776, my late great co-host, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, said that he showed me the book that he had, and it said that only 10% of the mainstream population ever achieved upward mobility without any help, no breaks, 10% since 1776. Ever pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, that many right-wingers like to use that term. And this left-wing gentleman once said, in order to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you have to have bootstraps, and they have to be attached to boots. Or what's that? They use that other stupid a proverb or story about teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a day. No, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Something like that.
My co-host said, what if the river's polluted?
Yeah, they never thought of that, apparently.
Yeah. Give a man a fish. Yeah. No, what they're really saying is, when you're in need, if you need help, don't ask us for it.
Right.
They do stupid things like they'll say, go ask your relatives and your best friend for help, and your local church. Ask them for help. And by the way, we'll pray for you. They don't. A Republican won't mention like actually helping you with the basic necessities of life. They'll instead say, we'll pray for you. Except the God they pray for is usually Beelzebub, because the God of the Bible, if they claim to be real Christians, does not profess what they believe in. So that makes them hypocrites and deliberate liars, because I think a pathological liar is lies and believes their own lies to be true in a delusional way. Like,
yeah,
they make it a psychiatric disorder.
Pretty much.
Pathological liar. But no, there's method to their madness of what they do. They lie. They're definitely, without a doubt, hypocrites in every way, shape, and form. And they're spin doctors. If you try to debate them, they come up with all kinds of cockamamie defenses, like the last progressive discussions we had when you were in a fast and furious debate with Ronnie S. and then eventually he ran out of gas. His octane vanished because they don't have any hard scientific evidence to back up their
Right. Yeah, that, and it's just, let's see, I had a thought, and I don't know where I was going to go. Oh, yeah. So the thought I was getting ready to go on to next is, let's dabble more into, since we at least got the broad general picture as to what Karl Marx's socialism is supposed to be. Now let's, talk about, the details, the nitty gritty, the meat and the potatoes about it. So Karl Marx was a doctor. So he was Dr. Karl Marx. Now, he studied just about every field you could think of, and he would critique a lot of different works. So the whole entire basis that he would use for his critiques of something was he would take an idea from George Wilhelm Hegel, who was a very prominent German philosopher. I believe it was like the 18th, 19th century. And Karl Marx would use thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So he would see what would be the thesis of an antithesis of a particular situation or an idea. So how does this apply to socialism and ultimately communism? So you have the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, the thesis, the proletarian, the antithesis. These two will eventually conflict and clash and combine over time, eventually forming the synthesis, which would be socialism and then ultimately communism. Now, that's just simplifying enough. If you want to read more details about it, there's plenty of information about it on YouTube. You can Google it, read more information about it, what have you. Now, the second method is called dialectical materialism, because Karl Marx, as well as his lifelong comrade Friedrich Engels, they would work a lot whenever they would write specific things. So whenever you'd see a work by Karl Marx, you'd also see Friedrich Engels' name put onto it as well. Then there would just be solely Marx works, there would be solely Engels works. So getting back to dialectical materialism, Karl Marx was an avid atheist, same thing with Friedrich Engels and other various socialists and communists that followed afterwards. So they're not looking at this from any kind of religious perspective whatsoever. So if you're not going to be looking at this from a religious perspective, you're going to have to be looking at this from a scientific perspective. So dialectical materialism takes the dialectic that I just gone about George Wilhelm Hegel and then combines it with materialism, meaning all that you see is all that there is. Matter is eternal, not created, therefore it cannot be, destroyed, created. Matter just eternal. However, it is always in a constant. Nothing stays 100% of anything ever. So there's always going to be ideas changing. There's not going to be a universal idea that's 100% set in stone regardless. And that also goes back to the dialectic. So what he would do is he would apply the dialectic of materialism to religion, philosophy, law, sociology, psychology, as well as economics. And he would also apply it to other various fields of study as well as other various fields of science. So when you're looking at that from that perspective, what did he write about in his work? So only 5% of Karl Marx's works were actually based on socialism or communism. The other 95% was an actual critique of capitalism, how it operated during his time, and looked into the future to a certain degree of how things were going to progress. But really, he drew a lot of the capitalist critique from feudalism and also early and primitive man to look at the way things had progressed. So when Karl Marx was around, it was in its infancy stage. You okay? Everything okay?
Yeah, sorry.
You're okay.
Oh, I
Just
thought
biology flare up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was allergies. Yeah, because I suffer from a bad sinusitis myself, and I blow my nose extremely loud also. And as long as she's She has medication if she needs.
She has nasal spray and she does take medicine, but sometimes it just don't work. I mean, here in Tennessee, allergies are bad, but I can tell why you have bad allergies. You're basically in the New York suburbs. No wonder the air is so bad and why you have bad allergies.
Well, I take over the counter a generic Zyrtec from the Dollar Tree. They actually are selling Zyrtec,
Mhm.
which used to be like $8 or $9 a box at Walgreens and pharmacy, but it works. It's a non-drowsy formula. It's good for most of the day, and it works. It helps me. But anyway,
Yeah, getting back to what I was talking about.
Karl
So,
Marx, yeah.
yeah, Karl Marx and the critique of capitalism. So, capitalism was in its infancy stage when Karl Marx was alive.
Mhm.
So, he could only see what capitalism was like and what it was going to develop only from his time perspective. Now, in retrospect, Karl Marx was right about a lot of things. However, Karl Marx was wrong about certain things. Okay, so Karl Marx was right about, the implementation of socialism. That using his method as scientific socialism. That's where he was right. Now, where he got things wrong. So Karl Marx in himself was a little bit of an elitist. Let's face it. I mean, he was a bit of an elitist himself. But he wasn't an elitist as in, a bourgeois elitist. So he really wanted to pioneer the first world. That the first world had the development and was only going to have the developed material conditions for a revolution. And ultimately, the first world would become revolutionary. The revolution would be carried out in the first world. The first world would go ahead and implement socialism to help out the third world and then develop that way. Well, that's actually not how things turned out and how things actually played out. In fact, it happened the exact opposite. In fact, it was the third world countries that actually implemented socialism. And we're going to go into this about Leninism to where, we get more into the structure and the organization of how this is supposed to be carried out. So, Russia, Cuba, China, Korea, Vietnam, various African countries, even various South American countries, third world countries were the ones that actually took these steps and tried these. Because here's where Karl Marx didn't look at it. See, he wanted to just say, okay, there has to be a certain amount of material conditions to happen for a revolution. But he wanted to not really look at, the bigger picture. He just wanted to look at it kind of more from just one aspect. Well, that other aspect he failed to look at is what really threw the wrench in his wheel. So while the correct theory, wrong in implementation and idea as to how it was going to be implemented. So the first country to ever implement it was Russia. Now, before Lenin became, in power and, it became Marxism Leninism, which had its own theoretical contributions, they called themselves avid Marxists. So, they adhered to Karl Marx's ideas and Karl Marx's theories, but when you had this material condition at the present time in Tsarist Russia, you gotta look at how rich the Tsar was and the conditions of which the people in Russia lived. What really put the nail in the Tsar's coffin was World War I. The Tsar was very brutal, he was very oppressive to the Russians, and they had enough. World War I was the straw that broke the camel's back, because the Tsar sent them to war completely unprepared. They had no adequate weaponry. They had no means to fight this war. Lots of people died, and eventually it got so bad that the Russian soldiers turned on their officers, shot them, and came back home. That's how bad it got. And then when there was the debate as to, whether to go the Leninist route or the Trotskyist route, And I discovered a very interesting idea about Trotskyism that I failed to mention in the videos that we've done about the past. Alternate timeline, the USSR is still alive today. So, what really gave Lenin his avid disdain for the Tsar was one of his brothers plotted to assassinate the Tsar. And instead of trying to appeal for mercy, the Tsar had him executed. So Lenin just became so infatuated with Marx. He wanted to overthrow the Tsar, but he wanted to do it in a much different way as compared to what other people were proposing. Basically, just overthrowing this Tsar and just implementing another one. Lenin said, no, the hell with that. We are not going to be doing that. So Lenin had this idea of, you know what? We're poor, we're despotic, we need to modernize, we need to have a better Russia. So he got his group together and they formed, the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. Well, the Bolsheviks overthrew the Tsar. Then you had the Russian Civil War, which tried to topple the new Bolsheviks from, the White Army, the Cossacks. And then you had the Mensheviks, the ones who were in the minority. And then eventually, Lenin and the Bolsheviks secured their power. But here's where he made his contribution, as well as other various people under him made their contribution as well. So they're the ones who took Marx's idea and they implemented it. So they said, okay, we love this idea, but how can we actually form a state based on these ideas? So first he started off with we're going to have the militant proletarian state, but we have to have a party, a actual state to exercise this will and this force of power. So he created the one-party government, the Communist Party, which Karl Marx did not actually advocate for an actual Communist Party. That was Lenin, and that was a theoretical contribution. The second one was socialism in one country, as compared to Trotsky's idea, socialism in many countries, and permanent revolution. Lenin did not advocate permanent revolution. Lenin advocated for, okay, here's how we're going to do this. If the state and the party becomes corrupt, we're going to purge it. We're going to start all over until we get it right. Trotsky, on the other hand, did not want that. And eventually, Trotskyist ideas became more prominent after Stalin died. Because when Lenin died, Stalin came to power. Stalin continued Lenin's work, modernized Russia, and turned it from a piss-poor, backward, despotic third world country to a first world superpower in less than 50 years. So what does that tell you? That type of system, if it can take a country that was completely poor and despotic and backward as all hell, third world, to a first world superpower, it must be doing something right. Because how long did it take for the United States to even become as modernized as it is today? It took much, much longer than that. But getting to Trotsky, so when I was telling you about, not permanent revolution and socialism in one country, eventually when the USSR and socialism and communism became social imperialistic, it took on a Trotsky idea. And that's ultimately why it failed, was there's nothing inherently wrong with socialism or communism the way Marx and Lenin advocated for. Trotsky is the one who completely fucked it all up. Because when you have a permanent revolution, and you have socialism in so many different countries, and you fund so many different revolutions, you lose track of what it is you're trying to do. I mean, socialism is supposed to be done on a one-country basis because every country has their own set of ideas, and they have their own ways to do this. So you could be completely funding the wrong person for this revolution in this one particular country, and it's just going to fuck everything up. And secondly, you're going to drain too many resources. You're going to go into too much debt. Because when you do this, socialism is not set up to be, on a debt basis. It's set up to be on an actual value-based system, meaning you actually have capital that is manifested to actual capital. Socialism and funding socialist revolutions cannot be funded on a debt basis. It has to be actually dealt with and funded with actual money. And when you're doing it like that, you run out of money very quickly. And that's why, when you take that money away from, jobs, wages, infrastructure, education, healthcare, things like that, of course it's going to fail. And in fact, that's why I don't think it went back to capitalist. And that's why so many people in the Soviet Union in the later parts, they wanted to cheer taking down the Lenin statues, and why people kept saying, oh yeah, this is the failure of socialism, the failure of communism, that capitalism wins, capitalism is the supreme way of having an economic system. But taking a Trotskyist idea of permanent revolution and draining resources away from socialism in one country and funding revolutions throughout the world, which may or may not be the right one, is why it failed. See, basically it went from socialism to some kind of mixed system, and then ultimately liberalism to capitalism, and then ultimately it just collapsed in on itself. That has nothing to do with even a planned economy. People say, oh, this is why a planned economy never works. But these are coming from the same people who don't actually understand how capital itself works. And the free market has never really been able to rationally allocate resources anyway. Like, look at what all we have that is so meaningless and pointless in our society, in our economic system. Like, just take a look at what all we've got. Look at what all capitalism has made. Yes, it has produced a lot of great things, but look at how much stupid, pointless, and ridiculous bullshit it has created in its wake. And that's because of the free market. No, a planned economy says, here's what money we've got, here's what we've got to work with, here's how we're going to spend it, and we either see how it works and we stick with it. If it does work, if it doesn't work, make the necessary changes so it keeps going.
Well, the excuse of capitalism when they try to peddle their nonsense is let the buyer beware. In other words, no consumer protection, no corporate regulations, no regulations at all. They can lie to you, they can screw you over, they can sell you garbage, they can sell you shoddy merchandise with no consumer protection.
Exactly.
And this is the reason why under capitalism, you have lots of yard sales or garage sales. Yeah, in Scandinavia, where they have socialism, I don't think there's too many yard sales with people trying to get rid of tons of garbage that they bought, that they wasted their money on, that they got duped out of their hard-earned money for. And then you have no guarantees at all. No guarantees for a comfortable retirement, or paternity leave, paternity leave, a basic salary, monthly salary from the government. No rights under capitalism, aside from the right to shop.
Exactly. Now, here's another argument that I'm going to debunk very quickly. That under socialism and communism, they don't produce anything that people want.
No, they don't.
That's what they say. But have you not heard this thing called what Marx called commodity production? See, under capitalism and also socialism, and even under feudalism back in the ancient times, there were commodities. A commodity is something that is useful or is not useful. Now, under capitalism, it's based on an exchange value. As long as there's money to be made on it, there would be profit exchanges. But under socialism, it's based on a use value. So commodity production still exists. So there would still be things like cell phones, computers, cars, TVs, um, toys, alcohol, tobacco, whatever you could think of. It's just the pricing is going to be very different as compared to capitalism's pricing. So the bare essentials are going to be cheap. So, going to the grocery store, getting clothes, um, getting a car. A car would be considered a basic necessity, especially if you have to travel to and from work. A car would be a necessity. Now, some other necessities would be like electricity as well as water, and even in the modern day now, internet.
Hmm.
So, even with all that being said, the necessities would still be considered pretty cheap because, healthcare and education are also considered basic necessities. Same thing with jobs and wages, what have you. So, um, done had a brain fart. It's where I had a long day. So if I have these brain farts, I'm sorry.
No, you're
So,
doing wonderful for an exhausted individual. You're doing
mhm. So even though, yeah, everything is still being made, it's just a much different price system. Now, how do things get to the consumers, and how is there an insurance of job protection? Well, trade unions, we'll buy X amount of your particular product if you buy X amount of our particular product. So, product is being made and product is being bought to ensure job security. So, there's another way of doing it. So, another way this is also done differently is, under capitalism, the let's see, social media community terms are all about woke capitalism. Call them out, James. No, just capitalism being capitalism. Not woke capitalism, not crony capitalism. It's just capitalism being capitalism. There ain't nothing really to call out here other than just capitalism being capitalism. So, getting back to, the profit, which is surplus value extracted from labor because of exploitation, it goes to the bourgeoisie to better themselves. Well, under socialism, it's done completely different. So, yes, you're still paid a wage, but you're paid a non-exploited wage. Your surplus value, i.e. profit, would still be used, but it would be allocated and rationed differently as compared to it going to an individual. It goes to the state. The state distributes it to healthcare, education, infrastructure, more jobs, and even back into wages, and even like commodity production. And it also goes to the basics like utilities, so water, electricity, internet. It's all paid for. You're not given free stuff like people want to say. Oh, socialism is all about just taking from one person and giving it all to another. No, you're not given free stuff. It's just the money and the value you create is being used for you and for your betterment, but also other people's betterment as well.
Well,
So,
the progressive tax system was only fair. The more money you make, the more taxes you pay. So I don't see a problem with the top 2% paying the bulk of taxation. I think it's quite fair.
it's not done in a progressive tax system. So you see, any surplus value is being turned over to the state for, collectively allocating it to where it needs to be allocated. So, are people paid like ridiculous amounts of money? No, but are they living in piss poor conditions? No.
Yeah.
There's still wealth inequality under socialism.
Well, and
According to what,
trickle down economics, it was always a big lie because it pools at the top.
exactly. And besides that, teach according to one's ability, teach according to one's work. So everyone's going to be paid a different wage no matter the job. Not everyone is going to be paid the exact same regardless of occupation. Some people, like highly trained medical professionals, are definitely going to be paid more as compared to someone working in a grocery store. Now, granted, they'd still be paid a non-exploited wage, but the medical professional would still be paid a much higher wage as compared to someone living in a grocery store. Teach according to one's ability, teach according to one's work. So this notion of everyone is paid the same, that's just some idea someone pulled out of their ass somewhere. So, again, no one is given free stuff. Nothing is just handed out, saying, you get all this, you don't have to work. Every able person under socialism does have to work. You can't be a mooch or a dreg of society. If you are able to work and you're not retired, you can work. You're made to work. So when people say that, socialism makes people not want to work, that, all this free stuff, this, that, and the other, I'm just like, you are so full of shit. And not even grade A American bullshit. Grade F American horseshit is what that person or any other person who has that idea or mentality is. And that's what they're full of. So, again, I stand by what I say. Socialism is not free stuff. It's stuff that you work for, that you receive, and other people work in to pay. And then also, now they say the Bernie Bros are Nazis, just like Trump's deplorables.
Well, this goes back to what Damian Owens and myself were talking about, that the Second Amendment will end up being more important to the masses and to the masses needing and wanting and craving democratic socialism more so than to the so-called right-wing gun nuts. And this is what Damian Owens explained to me, that sometimes when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and you have to take extreme measures to get things done. And sometimes when a tumor is too big, it has to be manually cut out.
Exactly.
That.
I love how he says Nazis. Do you not know that socialism is inherently anti-liberal, anti-anarchist, anti-conservative, anti-fascist, anti-monarchist, anti-reactionary, anti-so many different things that it's just anyone to the right or left of the mainstream are now considered Nazis and or in the pocket of Putin. Welcome to the Nazi club, Bernie Bros.
Bernie Bros will, I have a dream. I know I sound like...
I think my brain just had an aneurysm.
Okay. Copper divining rods. Do you feel that the Bernie Bros are justified in what they do with the corrupt forces of evil on the right side of the fence of politics? Yes. Copper divining rods. Do you feel that the Bernie Bros are being very mild compared to what Americans had to implicate years ago to fight for their rights and their freedoms? Yes. So the Bernie Bros are pretty much pussycats compared to what Americans had to endure and what they had to do to gain the rights and freedoms that they are entitled to. Yes. When I say rights, I don't mean privileges. So Americans are being denied many rights, and the conservatives are calling them privileges and entitlements because they really want to control everything as a power game, and greedily steal tax money for themselves? Yes. Now, corporate welfare, do you consider that just as bad, or actually, is corporate welfare worse than the welfare that a poor person receives? Yes. So Wall Street bailout was a complete, total, massive scale highway robbery in terms of the American people and the American taxpayer. Yes, the people that caused the most damage on Wall Street got the bailout, and the tax cuts for the top 1%, uh, uh, perpetuated by the Republicans. This is this done because of the massive campaign contributions given by the oligarch to establishment politicians? Okay. So when someone gives massive contributions, then the politician owes massive favors? Yes. Synonymous with crony capitalism and the corruption that is inherent by capitalism? A big yes. I like the way it writes itself, thanks to my fat straws. It's a good idea. The straws didn't come with the dividing rods. That was my idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me see what the devil's advocate here. What do we got here? The Bernie Bros are great. Let me tell you something. You're made to work. Oh, we are? I thought Adam and Eve was made to enjoy paradise and get everything.
No, I know what he's talking about, but continue.
All right, you're made to work. And if you don't, you are. If you don't, are you drugged out to the gulag and killed by the government police? Oh, so he's talking about totalitarian version of the Soviet Union.
Okay, I know what he's talking about. He's trying to take "you are made to work" out of context. So yes, you are made to work, as in no one is allowed to be a mooch or dreg of society. And to answer that question, yes and no. Yes, you are taken to a gulag, but you're not killed. See, many people who were taken to gulags were actually never killed. The entire purpose of the gulag in the Soviet Union and other various socialist and communist countries were labor camps to work off to pay your debt to society. Yes, people did die in gulags, but majority of them lived and were able to carry out their sentence. I mean, if you were going to be executed, they would have just executed you. It's the same way here under capitalism with the death penalty. You know, yeah, you're given a sentence, you are sentenced to death, you're on death row, and then they execute you. I don't really see what the issue is with that.
Yeah, why send you to Siberia to a gulag where if they wanted to execute you, they would have done it in Moscow?
Exactly. And besides that, any person who was actually executed in the Soviet Union had a trial and was convicted of a crime and also executed. Now, this was anybody could have been convicted of a crime, or anybody could have been executed for this, that, and the other. I'm just like, are you that friggin' stupid?
It's conservative propaganda is what it all is.
Basically, they say, oh, you disagree with the government, therefore you committed a crime, you're taken to jail, or you're taken to a gulag, and you're just executed. No, if you were executed in a socialist or communist country, you had to have done something pretty bad. It just because there was a disagreement between you and the government does not mean that you were taken to jail or hauled off somewhere or ruled as an enemy of the state. In fact, if you look back in Soviet news archives and Soviet documents that have been released, you will see that there actually was no 100% unity in the Communist Party itself. There were debates and disagreements in the party, as well as agreements and debates and disagreements, even among the Soviet population themselves, with the party and the government. So that's complete and total nonsense. And hey, I didn't say the Bernie Bros were Nazi, but it is being implied by the mainstream media because they don't want Sanders to gain power. I don't agree with Sanders, but I do think he has integrity. I'm sorry, on this one, no. You're wrong, Ronnie. Just because, you're left or you're a little right of mainstream, you're not automatically a Nazi. I have no idea where you're making this claim from.
Well, I know for a fact that every time I turn on Ronnie S, I'm talking to, and to Damien, and to everyone out there in cyberspace. Every time I turn on CNN, I get very upset because they are not behaving unbiased like proper journalists should. Now they are blatantly they went from barely ever mentioning Bernie Sanders' name, and promoting the corporatists, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, creepy, touchy-feely Joe Biden, and gooseneck, Pocahontas, fake Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. They went from that, promoting the corporatists every chance they get and barely mentioning Bernie Sanders' name. They went from that to now blatantly attacking and bashing Bernie Sanders himself, since he is on a major roll. So now the establishment is really feeling threatened, which means that for CNN, the spineless cowards that are beholding to the puppet masters that sign their paycheck, for CNN to be blatantly bashing Bernie Sanders, that's proof that they're taking their marching orders from above, and that, proper journalism of the past, the way it's supposed to be, is out the window. And now they've turned to underhanded tactics of directly bashing Bernie Sanders and directly trying to sway people's votes away from Bernie Sanders, because the fat cats don't want democratic socialism, because the fat cats want to continue their income tax vacation and their corruption. They don't want to give up the gravy train. And this is why mainstream media, some say MSNBC is doing the same thing. They really, in a bad way, don't want the democratic socialism that the asses of the masses really want, because they're desperate. They're desperate. They're in debt. All their money that they earn working long hours is going to living expenses. They have no surplus cash for the American dream or to enjoy life. They have shit. Where are the opportunities? Donald Trump's a liar. There's no great economy going on. And the job market, it sucks. Now, when he says great economy, what exactly is he referring to, Mr. Damian Owens, when he spouts his nonsense about the economy?
Just elaborate a little bit, because I was looking up this particular article that I was getting ready to post.
Oh, no. Do what you got to do.
I mean, just elaborate, because I think I found the article. What was it again?
Yeah, like he, Donald Trump keeps on taking claims for a booming American economy and a booming job market. Meanwhile, this economy and this job market doesn't really exist. Because I know people with fantastic, kick-ass resumes that, because they happen to be overqualified for the jobs that they're supposed to be getting, they're being blown off for young people that are willing to work cheap. So if the economy and job market was that much skyrocketing, then these individuals with fantastic resumes would be getting hired by the number of agencies that they're signed up with, including the ones online like Career Builder and Monster and Indeed. And you know what I mean? They wouldn't be accepting crap that is way beneath the standards of their resume and experience if Donald Trump's America was really booming with the economy and the job market. So, I mean, Bernie Sanders explained more detail about what exactly is happening with the economy and the job market. But from the people I interview, it's not existent. You know, now what kind of article are you focusing on right now? Hold on. What do we got here? Hamana. Ronnie say, Confucius say, Ronnie. Don't agree with this communism silliness. If someone doesn't want to work, it's their own prerogative. No gulags, please. Well, you know what's funny? You know how conservative Republicans like to cherry pick from the Bible, and they'll say something like, "Oh, the Bible says in the Old Testament, if you don't work, you don't eat." They only cherry pick what they like, and they omit many of the other verses in Scripture that goes against their ideology.
Okay, so continue to perpetuate a mooch and drag of society problem. Have at it. No, okay. So the article that I was looking at here was people want to say socialism and communism was so bad that the people of the USSR hated it. People in socialist and communist countries were so miserable, and this, that, and the other. Okay, well, I have an article here, and it links to various other sources, and it was posted by the Communist Party of Great Britain, and I'll just go over a little bit of the information that's within this article, and I'll post it in the YouTube channel chat, not here in private chat, so that way anybody can read this article and go through yourself. But here's what it talks about. Workers in Eastern Europe and former Soviet states prefer socialism, meaning, they've had capitalism ever since the fall of the Soviet Union, and guess what? They want socialism back. And here's the information that is within this article. So, hundreds of supporters gathered to mark Joseph Stalin's 139th birthday in Moscow's Red Square. And this photo was taken on December 21st, 2018. And there was a bunch of Soviet nostalgia and Soviet iconography on this, which actually looks very appealing. And as you can tell, there's a lot of older folks from the Soviet Union, as well as, people of around the millennial age and even my age. And here is other information in this article. So, former Soviet leader Joseph Stalin's approval rating has hit a record high of 70% among Russians, according to a study published by the, I would assume, Levada Polling Center. And Stalin's approval rating has, among the Russians, hit a record high. I don't know if that's been the highest it's ever been, but 70% nowadays is very high.
Well, how did they make Joseph Stalin out to be this super mega mass murderer?
Right, that's what I'm actually getting ready to get into, because other documents have come out that when this whole entire 10 million people dead under Joseph Stalin, it's the original source from the Black Book of Communism, which has been debunked multiple times as being a fraud. And there's other various sources that have now come out about the actual real numbers that happened during this so-called 10 million dead or this mass purge. to actually conflict all this. But here's other things that we're going to. So we are used to reading opinion polls and being justifiably skeptical about their findings. Very often, a tiny portion of the public is actually polled, and the methodology is key to determining the responses and therefore the outcomes in the West. So-called opinion polls in general is a general technique of population manipulation rather than one of acquiring science. So meaning, if you want to take this with a grain of salt, fine, but this is not being taken from a Western source. So in this case, however, we note the general hostility of those conducting such polls as evidenced by the liberal sprinkling of their reporting with the terms regime and dictator in relation to the socialist and worker states when they refer to the corrupt capitalist kleptocracies, now installed as having brought the great benefit of freedom, jeans, open borders, and Coca-Cola. Understanding that the bourgeois bases were stacked against an accurate record or recording of the people's hatred of their present exploitation, we can begin to glimpse at a greater truth that lies beneath. And also with this in mind, it is worth examining some of the opinion polls of the people of the former socialist countries 30 years on from the counter-revolution, which, was Boris Yeltsin and the overthrowing of the Communist Party, things like that. So, over the past decade, polls have been conducted in each of the former democratic republics, allowing us to gauge their experience of the wonders of free market, i.e. monopoly capitalism, as well as a number of well-known Western European capitalist journals seem to be shocked at their reported results. So this is being also reported not only from Eastern Europe, but it's also being reported in Western Europe journalists as well. So here's what they found out. Bourgeois journalists couch their own surprise in customary cynicism and dismiss the longing of Eastern European workers for the return of the decency and optimism of their lost socialist systems as nostalgia. And also in Germany, they have been coined the term Ostalgia, a longing for the return of the socialist East German Democratic Republic, which was the GDDR, or also, as they called it in Germany, the Deutschland Democratic Republic. So, subtly twisting the words to suit their agenda, these reporters attempt to cover up the truth when discussing the reality of working class power and actual opinions of Eastern European workers derived from the lived experience of workers from the Soviet or the former socialist states. This kind of con game has long existed within discussing any country that doesn't have a system of government which Western capitalism approves. No surprise there. And also, the full article is linked to, and we invite you to read them, bearing in mind that every piece of data is used as a pretext for a subjective and irrelevant conclusion in order to launch an unwarranted attack on socialism. Now, if the youth want socialism, they are young and naive and not experienced enough in life. If the old that lived under socialism wants their socialism back, they are nostalgic fossils lamenting for their lost youth. That just goes to show you right there immediately how they're going to be looking at this in a bourgeois context. That there's no way that this could be done, or that there's no way this should even be happening because of X, Y, Z reasons, what have you. So if we ignore the commentary and listen instead to the source, we will find that our old comrades who have lived and experienced both socialism and the capitalist reaction, and also the counter-revolution and restoration, themselves provide detailed and nuanced reasons for preferring socialism. So this will be the last article, and then we can go down into the actual, different Eastern European countries.
Well,
so
get to a certain point, and then I want to address a couple of things.
Right. I don't want to be long-winded. That's why I'm just going to try to just cut to the chase. So, all right. So this is all the more remarkable given that most of those old enough to have lived under socialist systems in Europe did so when revisionism was already busy uprooting the gains of the planned economy and preparing the necessary conditions for the counter-revolution. And in many cases, the years they experienced were the years of relative stagnation and decline, although the socialist countries never experienced absolute recession before capitalist restoration that paved the way for full counter-revolution. So first, Russia and the former Soviet Union. So the majority of Russians polled in 2016 said that they would prefer living under the old Soviet Union and would like to see the socialist system and the Soviet state restored. And it links to an article, Most Russians Prefer the Return of the Soviet Union and Socialism. And when I link this, this will also be linked into this article as well. So the ex-Soviet bloc.
Yeah, well, I also see the poisoning and corruption of American capitalism in Chairman Mao's China, because I have friends that are Chinese from mainland China that tell me that since capitalism has poisoned their country, people have to pay out of pocket for a lot of things, and life has become very difficult for them. You know, and it really sucks that China has embraced capitalism. Now, Johnny Ringo says the elites would be happy with Trump or Bloomberg. I would not be surprised if Bloomberg runs as an independent to be a spoiler. Actually, all of the centrist, corporatist Democrats are spoilers for Bernie Sanders. Now, holy crap, look at all the stuff Johnny S. wrote. I just want to say that I was on one of the beer shows or booze shows with Ronald J. Theriot, and Ronnie was there. And I mentioned something about the 19th century. I said that conservative Republicans want to turn back the clock to the 19th century, where if you didn't have money, you simply perish. You died. There were no social programs. So Ronald J. Theriot says, "Oh, don't believe that commie pinko socialist propaganda." Oh, so there were. So I said, does that mean there were social programs in the 19th century? Don't count asking your friends and relatives in a local church for money. That's not going to fly.
Right.
I highly doubt that.
Yeah, I highly doubt that too.
They're obsessive. They think they believe in American exceptionalism. They think this is God's country. They believe Kate Smith and that stupid song, God Bless America, and all this bullshit. They are so delusional. And I think they're fascist because the definition of fascism is corporate control. A lot of right-wingers don't know political definitions. They don't look them up on what Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. They don't know their political definitions.
Right.
Let me. The mainstream media will go for woke that are crossing the line at the real socialism stuff. James is correct. All right, thanks. Trump's greatest economy ever the same economy that he correctly called a huge bubble while candidate. Blame the Fed, though. Well, everybody blames big government. They never blame the corporate CEO fat cats that send their lobbyists to bribe and pay off politicians. You know, everybody blames big government, but I trust big government long before I would ever trust a corporate CEO. That's for sure.
All right. So let's see here.
Real problem is here is that you guys confuse crony capitalism with actual capitalism. Most Americans don't know what actual capitalism is because they've never seen it. Actual capitalism, according to the right wing, means if you don't have money, you drop dead.
Okay, yeah. Now let's see here. I can just say that whole entire comment that's on the screen right now, all of it wrong. So getting back to the article, and then
all right, and then It's this last comment.
Yeah, okay. So the ex-Soviet bloc. So reflecting back on the breakup of the Soviet Union that happened 22 years ago next week, residents in 7 out of 11 countries that were part of the Union are more likely to believe its collapse harmed their countries more than benefited them. Only Azerbaijanians, Kazakhstanians, and Turkmens are more likely to see benefit than harm from the breakup. Georgians are divided. So, out of those former Eastern or former ex-bloc countries, you know, majority of them still say, the breakup was more harmful than beneficial, whereas, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, as well as Georgia, they see it as beneficial rather than harmful, even though, the Georgians are divided, but they have a little bit of a majority opinion that, there was more benefit to the breakup as compared to the fall. So another big one that people talk about is Eastern Germany. Now it also goes into like Hungary, Czech Republic, the former Yugoslavia, Romania, Ukraine, Lithuania, Bulgaria. But we'll talk about Eastern Germany because that was, one of the better states of the Eastern Bloc. So today, 20 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, 57%, or an absolute majority of East Germans defend the former East Germany. And here's what they say: that life was good there, say 49% of those polled. 8% of East Germans flatly oppose all criticism of their former home, and it does link to an article. So the last point, why these former Soviet bloc countries miss socialism. So it seems easy for the bourgeois press, who have to report these unfavorable findings, to dismiss them as mere nostalgia. Oh, everyone loved their youth. They clamor, it is their youth they are nostalgic for, not socialism, which is absolute bullshit. It is therefore worth taking a look at what people themselves have to say about their lived realities. So, most East German citizens had a nice life, says one former citizen. I certainly, and it actually knows his name, I would assume Mr. I'd say Burger, something like that. I certainly do not think that it is better here in reunified Germany. People who lived on the poverty line today also lack the freedom to travel. We note that the freedom to travel was denied not by the Eastern republics, but by the aggressive, encircling imperialist powers who put the entire existence of the socialist nations on a warring foot, as they continue to do so with the citizens of North Korea and Cuba, among all others today. So also, let's see here. Let's see. Trying to see if there is something else in this. So from what I can read just by looking at all of this, the main reason why they missed it was because in the Eastern Bloc, as compared to what they have now, they actually had the basics of necessity. They had a job, they had a wage, they had a place to live, they had food, they had water, they had clothing, they had shelter, they had healthcare, they had education. They had a good life, which is what they long for and what they want back. They've had capitalism. They see it's not the grass being green on the other side as to what the counter-revolutionaries told, and now they're seeing it. And in fact, when the Soviet Union and also the Eastern Bloc fell, guess what? They had that power to make that change in order for that to happen. Do they have the ability to reverse that change and go back? No, they don't. So that's why they want it back. They miss the good life that they had under socialism. And, a knee-jerk reaction, they overthrew socialism and communism for capitalism, and now they're paying the price for their sad actions. But, that's the main point. I'm going to go ahead and post this article. It has links to all the other articles linked into it as well, if anybody wants to look at it. And also I'll PM it to you on Facebook so you can read it yourself.
We'll definitely put it under the show commentary. I know this man. He was in Soviet Special Forces. I think it's called Spetsnaz.
Yes.
If I'm pronouncing it right, but he's from the Ukraine. His name is Alex, and he told me how happy he was under Leonid Brezhnev living in the Ukraine. He had all of the basic necessities of life. He had a great, big, clean apartment. Everything was modern. He had a cornucopia of food, of anything he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He had an adequate base salary. I mean, he was happy, and he had surplus cash to enjoy life. He had lots of free time, leisure time. He wasn't busting his ass, working long hours just to like pay the high cost of living off like Americans do. With the highway robbery, rents, and mortgages, property taxes. There's nothing when you weigh out the pros and cons. There's really very little pros to capitalism, and
Exactly.
it really it sucks. And what Ronnie S is talking about is they pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You're totally on your own. Okay, AOC is too young. She needs more experience, Ronnie S. She's still a young chickie poo. She's smart as hell. She probably has a high IQ for a millennial, but she needs more time as a congresswoman before any other lofty ambitions. I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of hers, but she's too young. She's too green. She's too green. But I'm very impressed by her. Education is key. So this is where I'm getting about the bootstraps. Education is key, and the majority of the average Americans don't have it, so are easily misled. This is nothing new. Now, free public universities and free healthcare would take a lot of stress off of American shoulders, believe me, because no one would lose their life savings when they get ill, especially a catastrophic illness. And everyone, no matter what, like Bernie Sanders says, no matter what zip code they have, no matter what race, no matter how poor they are, the mind is a terrible thing to waste, like that old commercial. United Negro College Fund. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. So why should a poor kid of color, or even a poor white kid living in a trailer that happens to have a high IQ, why should that child be denied an education? Why should that poor child who's gifted at playing the violin or the piano, as they say down south, piano,
Yeah.
or trumpet or whatever, why should they, if they're good enough to go to Juilliard, they should go to Juilliard? Why deny talent and intellect and natural born abilities, whether it be the sciences, whether it be math, you know what I mean? So this is why I'm all for the basics. Now, a basic salary would mean that if the job market sucks, which it is, and you can't find a job that pays a living wage to keep at least your nose above water, at least you have that base salary like they get in Scandinavia to keep you alive, healthy, roof over the head, clothes on your back, and food on the table.
Exactly.
You know what kills me? You ever, every time I watch these shows of the commercial fishermen that go out, or any tradesman that goes out, and if they happen to be from a red state, they happen to be from an area that is predominantly Republican, they're always bragging about, I hope we catch enough tuna because I got to put food on the table for my kids. They start playing a big violin. Oh, I'm a provider for my family. You know what? Who gives a fuck? Here, I got an itch in the middle of my forehead. you gotta rub everyone's nose in it. The fact that, oh, I'm a provider and I provide. So what are you trying to say? You're trying to say other people in America are moochers. Well, guess what? I agree with you on one instance. The middle class should not be paying the bulk of taxation. The fat cats have been on a tax vacation too long. That is very true. Okay, I'd like to come on. I'd like to come on and speak to you guys sometime. Almost sounds like Mae West. Come on, come up and see me sometime, big boy. I can have a cordial. Oh, I don't have any. That's a liqueur, right? I don't have any in the house. I can have a cordial conversation with those I disagree with. And all good intentions. What is that again? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I disagree with. We can always find common ground. That is true if it's a reasonable debate with respect. It's possible, but yeah, it has to be presidential debate style. It's got to be, okay, Ronnie S., you have exactly 3 minutes. Okay, Damian Owens, comrade Damian Owens, you have 3 minutes to rebuttal Ronnie S. Take it away. No interruptions.
Exactly. Oh, and interestingly, I tried posting that link in the chat.
Didn't post?
It won't let me post it. I don't know why.
Well, put it just for the hell of it. I think this is a public chat. Just for the hell of it, paste it over here on the right-hand side. See what happens.
Okay. Let's see here. Live comments. There we go. Let's see.
Happens.
Let's see.
Right under Ronnie's last comment. Oh, you put it in private. Nah, it's private though.
Well, let's see here. I see if it'll let me put it there. Okay, so let me put it there.
Yeah.
Live comments. Let me see if I can make this bigger.
We do it late on Sundays because Comrade Damian Owens has specific household duties that he needs to do on Sunday.
Right, that night work. So.
And yeah, he has to do this around his work schedule. It's not that there's a special sentimental value in 10:30 p.m. You know, it's done this way for a reason. I have, you know, I'm retired, so I have a lot more flexibility. But you know, we have to work around and be considerate of others, and this is why we do it at 10:30 p.m. on a Sunday. I mean, I can do it on some other days, but I like to watch professional wrestling. You know, I like to unwind and, you know, do a little recreational. Damian Owens does fantastic reviews on food and beers. He's on a roll with his beer reviews. They're really exceptional, and he's been busy doing those too. And he's a gamer. He's really a gamer's gamer. That's the reason why we do it at 10:30.
Right. Yeah, try it again. I still not letting me. Here's what it keeps saying. It keeps saying, oops, remove any web addresses and try again. So it's some kind of chat filter that's not allowing it.
Okay, now have you tried on the Progressive Discussions YouTube channel?
Well, let's see.
Yeah, go to, it'll be youtube.com/MegaLife21 and see if it'll work, because we're still live, so you're probably going to see us. You might have to mute the audio when you go there, but try the commentary at the YouTube channel. Now, worst case scenario, you might have to wait until we end the show and then paste it. That's a possibility. Maybe there's some kind of a filter. I don't know why they're filtering URLs, but there might be some kind of a filter while the show is in progress.
Unless they want to call it spam, but I mean, this is something being posted by me.
It's not spam. It's a bona fide URL to an article. How could it be spam?
Yeah, how can it be spam if it's being posted by one of the hosts of the show?
You know what? The people, the programmers who created StreamYard and who run it, the guy, you ever see the guy? He's another geek. He's another pencil neck geek. You know, all these geeks. Let me tell you, there was a geek when I went to school. He had a high IQ. He used to insult all the jocks on the football team, and they used to smack him around and turn him upside down and throw him in a dumpster. His name was Eugene Hoyas, and I punched him in the face one time because he said some rotten things to me in public, and he was an arrogant geek. And this guy that runs StreamYard reminds me of Eugene Hoyas. You run, but I hope you're a wino sleeping in a refrigerator box somewhere, or if you might be a CEO. Anyway, you rat bastard, you remind me of the CEO of Twitter, Mr. Tommy Dorsey. No, that was the big band. Yeah, Dorsey, douchebag Dorsey. I'll just call him that. Okay, Ronnie S. Confucius say, I was speaking of real education, something anyone looking for it can get for free. Libraries are an actually great public institution, I agree with, but you don't get a sheepskin from the library. You don't get that diploma certificate. Like Jethro the Bodine he graduated from the 5th grade. And he also had a rope for a belt. Kids being sent to public government schools are actually getting a miseducation. Well, they can't afford Ivy League. Learning to be woke and say the Pledge of Allegiance. You know what I'm against, Ronnie S? That is kind of it kind of agrees with the right wing a little bit. I'm against downgrading academia to make it easy for kids from, let's say, the ghetto or from poor neighborhoods, to make it easy for them to pass like SAT exams and get into college. I am very much against any downgrading or degradation or of academia in any way, shape, or form. There's no way we can compete in the world market with other countries if we water down our academic system here in America. If you fail, you fail the SAT. You don't get in the school you want. Just like the parents. Hold on, let me go full screen. Hold on, let me get rid of. Just like the parents that yell at the Little League baseball coach and say, "How come my son is not playing? How come he's always on the bench?" Well, guess what, buddy boy? If I was the coach, he's on the bench because he sucks. Why don't you spend more time with him, throwing baseballs at him at home, so he can hit the ball and break somebody's window, or play catch with your son. Teach him how to, if he wants to, give him some pointers, or there's always practice. Little League practice. He's not going. Maybe he's not showing up at practice. Maybe it wasn't meant to be that he isn't an athlete. Maybe he's not a natural-born athlete. Maybe he's a natural-born artist or a musician. Maybe he's not meant to be playing on the field. Maybe his testosterone level's a little low. Not everybody is meant to be a winner. I hate what is that? Is that a neoliberal thing where the woman says you're all winners? You got the Special Olympics. You're all winners. No, you're not all winners. In order for the cream to rise to the top, creme de la creme, there has to be losers underneath that cream. Otherwise,
Exactly.
cream doesn't get pushed to the top. And that's life. That's the way the crab cake crumbles.
Exactly. Oh, and I got to thinking. So by the way that you talk, I can definitely tell that you're definitely, there's no doubt you're from New Jersey, because a lot of people I've talked to from like northern New Jersey, where you're from, they have kind of like a little bit of rough around the edges attitude and not afraid to fight.
Well, I don't know about other bullshit artists from my state, but I was raised to be honest and to always tell the truth. And I believe in if you have a disagreement with someone, you don't talk behind their back and then be nice to them to their face. You discuss things in a nice way, like I'm doing now, and you tell them,
Hmm.
say, look, I have something's been bothering me the other night, the other day, when we had a talk, and something that you said is bothering me, and you just express yourself. That's how couples are supposed to work,
Exactly.
work things out. A husband and wife, you talk. Unfortunately, if women can't win the debate, in other words, if the woman did something wrong and you're laying a guilt trip on her because she really is guilty, then their voice gets louder and louder, and they start yelling. And
Hmm.
there goes the cordial debate that Ronnie S. was talking about. Goes
Right.
right out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I like that, but what I'm talking about is like, the little rough around the edge, not afraid to, if someone's giving you some shit and things to be settled man to man, not afraid to pick up an equalizer and settle it.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's why I like the Bernie bro mentality. I mean, heaven forbid either of us should be running under the Our Revolution. Actually, it's not a bad idea. I was offered to run in New Jersey under the Democratic Socialists of America. Um, Now I got the fucking hat. Maybe I should run. But I tell you one thing: if you think Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is rough, did you imagine me in Congress when the Republicans are talking shit? That they won't let me bring the shillelagh. I know that's for sure. That's not going to work. But anyway, speaking of wrestling, James, I'm planning to go to some indie shows. WrestleMania weekend. Oh, WrestleMania's in Tampa? Really? Do you keep up with WWE or other main promotions? I like AEW, All Elite Wrestling, run by Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes' sons, because it's the closest thing to old school um, territory days professional wrestling, the way it used to be. I can't stand Impact anymore for certain reasons. They caved in and kowtowed and capitulated to the feminist movement by taking Tully Blanchard's daughter, Tessa Blanchard, and having her beat all the top male wrestlers, and they put the world's title around a woman's waist. Meanwhile, Brian Cage could have took her head off in the first 30 seconds of the match because he's a pretty big guy. It's bullshit. I will never capitulate to the feminist movement. It's the feminist movement that screwed me out of my Twitter account because that pencil neck geek, Dorsey. All right, what do we got here? That was the last comment. Okay, so holy mackerel. Time flies when you're having socialist fun. 1 minute
Exactly.
and 54 seconds, I believe. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And I have no liquor, I have no alcohol in my blood whatsoever. I guess the power came from the beret and what had to be said. I mean, they're all
Hmm.
stories. I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna do some beer reviews here in just a few minutes. Once
yeah,
we get off, I'm gonna.
yeah. Get a beer, and I'll grab the I'll do a little mysticism. Comrade Damian Owens, has his reviews vastly improved tremendously in a short amount of time? Yes. His gaming ability, are they also vastly improving? Yes. Damian Owens, will he get that diploma in tarot card reading? Yes. Damian Owens, will he end up excelling at his present new job? Yes. Does he have, will they recognize him as having full-timer and management potential? Yes. Uh, are they giving him a pleasant employee discount on food? Are they? Are they?
That one's actually not true because we don't get employee discounts where I work. So
Hey, come on, wake up there, Rods. He's not getting an employee discount.
everything else has been true so far. And about management, I mean, I wouldn't care to move up to a management position, but I don't know about full time because I like working 4 days in a row and having 3 days off. So I don't really like working only 5 days and having 2 days off.
Yeah, well, you know what the problem with manager is? Sometimes it's only a title because if you go, the worst thing is when you go on salary. Hey, wait a minute, that's a cap. That might be a capitalist scam. Is it a capitalist scam, Divining Rods, when they promote someone to manager and he or she goes on salary and therefore they work overtime for free? Is that a scam of capitalism? Yes.
Henceforth, why I'm going to be a lawyer where you're still paid by the hour, and you also get, like, it's not called commission, but essentially, if you win cases, lose cases, and people have to pay like the fees or like a certain portion of the winnings if you win a case, things like that. That's why I still want to be a lawyer because you can kind of work your own hours and have your own flexibility with that, but still, you're not paid a salary.
And you could slide right into politics from being a lawyer. Slide right in. Now, Bernie Sanders is very pro-union, like I am, because I was with the Teamsters. Very pro-union. Will the unions come back with more power than they ever had in the history of the United States if Bernie Sanders gets the nomination? Well, if he beats Trump, I should say. If he gets the nomination and defeats Trump, will unions regain the power and beyond? Yes. Do you feel, Divining Rods, that every industry should be unionized, even retail? Yes. What about fast food workers? Look for the union label. What about, of course, all healthcare? Because we know how much profit healthcare industry makes. What about healthcare workers? Yes. Nurses work long hours, and they're definitely not paid what they should be getting. Um, Registered dietitians, they require a master's degree to put together that garbage they call hospital food. Are they basically full of shit that don't really deserve that master's degree? Yes. Well, yeah. Why would you need a master's? Why would you need a master's degree to put together a dietary program for heart patients, which is loaded with sugar and crap? Do you agree? Yes. Oh, that'll be great though. Once you get your diploma in tarot cards, man, you'll be a socialist politician and a psychic medium. Comrade, do you think a, a good gimmick would be Comrade Damien, the Third Eye Owens? Yes, you like that,
Yes,
huh?
I like that. But speaking of mysticism, I have I've rekindled an interest in an old show that I used to watch. I mean, we're going on 2 hours, and we're probably just winding down now on the shows. But
Maybe I'll remember it if you tell me.
yeah, all right. So speaking of mysticism, so I've rekindled an interest in an old show that I used to watch whenever I was a child.
Tales from the Dark Side.
I mean, I used to watch Tales from the Dark Side, but this one's a little bit more interesting. And, as a kid, I didn't look at it in its entirety. Like, I didn't really see, like, all the little nuances, little peculiarities, and the rich history behind this show, and how much actual ancient Egyptian mysticism there actually is in this show. But have you ever heard of a anime slash manga called Yu-Gi-Oh?
No.
Okay, so it started off as a manga, which is Japanese animation in print form on a piece of paper or in a comic book. So it starts off as it used to be a game that ancient Egyptians used to play called the Shadow Games with monsters, and they would compete in these arenas and in these matches for different wagers up to potentially killing your opponent. Well, it also created its own card game as a result of it. Now, the Japanese manga turned into an actual anime. And then whenever the anime came to the US, they wanted to market it as a kids show. But to be honest, yes, it appealed to kids, but it could also appeal to teenagers and even adults because the duel monsters on the cards resemble a lot of ancient Egyptian gods, goddesses, and also various mythological creatures of ancient Egyptian mythology. But it was also based on, a pharaoh who saw this as being very dangerous, but then it also locked this magic away into the Millennium items. And there's different duel monsters, and they each have their own different themes based on different ancient Egyptian mysticism. So there's 3 types of cards. You have a monster card, a magic card, and a trap card. So a monster card, depending upon which levels or which rules you want to play, they have a star rating system, attack points, and defense points, and then they also have an element, and they also have a type. So you can have you have the different elements. You have earth, air, wind, fire, and then you also have other divisible categories. Is it I'm trying to think of the word. Is it like a magic type monster? Is it they even have like zombie type cards. Is it a water monster, an air monster, an earth monster, a fire monster, what have you? Then the various magic and trap cards, have different effects, abilities. They can boost your particular monster. They can also, lay traps on the field. So if your opponent attacks or does something, you can negate an attack or do something else involved with it. But it has a very rich ancient Egyptian backstory. So it started with a pharaoh known as Atem, who locked away all of this power and sealed the shadow games into these cards. But then these cards actually manifested in the playing game by a guy named Maximilian Pegasus. And then there was a battle for all these different Millennium items in the first couple seasons. Yugimoto, who had the Millennium Puzzle, Maximilian Pegasus had the Millennium Eye. Then there was Shadi, who had the Millennium Key, and then there was, I think her name was, I forget what her name was, but she had the Millennium Necklace, Merrick with Millennium Rod, and then there was someone with the Millennium Scales, and each one had their own unique power, but if you have all 7 of these items, you unlock the ancient Egyptian being known as Zork, who
Right. You froze? I think he froze. He might come back. Hello? Mr. Owens? He froze. Well, before Mr. Owens returns, Ronnie, yes,
destroy humanity.
yeah, you froze before. We lost you momentarily. You froze again. I put a lot of old school.
I'm back.
All right,
There we go. Wait, I'm down here. There we go. Now we're all properly sorted. I have honestly no idea. We have charter internet, and they are terrible.
What the heck? Yeah, how could you be in the basement and? Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, your old video won't go away. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to worry. Oh, there you go. There you go. You're back.
Yeah, lived up. Yeah, I was talking about Zork. So Zork was the epitome of all evil in the ancient Egyptian universe. So he also had everything based on a Ba and a Ka, which I think it was the Ba, which is the goodness of a person's soul, and the Ka was the evil of one's soul, and there was supposed to be a balance between the two. And Zork was the epitome of the Ka of someone's soul. And there's a lot of interesting backstory. I think they have it on Netflix. You can watch it free here on the internet, and then also it's on Tubi. You ever heard of Tubi?
No, this is all anime because I have a lot of anime on Netflix that I see in genres and categories.
Yeah, it is, and it is technically considered an anime, although a lot of people don't want to consider one. But it started as a manga. It started off as an anime in Japan, then made its way over into America.
I mean, I used to watch Night Gallery, Tales from the Dark Side. Night Gallery was a Rod Serling production. I used to watch Outer Limits. I'm talking about when I was a kid, but that was low budget sci-fi. But I used to watch a soap opera called Dark Shadows when I was a kid with Barnabas, with the vampire. The strange part is that the time slot was like 4 p.m. While I was doing my homework. This show went on, and I was alone. My mother wasn't home yet. I was kind of frightened me. I was in 4th grade. Yeah, so I went to ask you something. Are you familiar with the runic stones of the Vikings? Casting the runes, RUNES, and then there's the I Ching of China, where it's a series of sticks that you toss on a table or the ground, and depending on how they fall, they have different meaning. I know the runic stones have certain symbols on it. They're not as detailed as the tarot. No, they don't even come close to the tarot cards, which in a lot of ways are amongst the most accurate and detailed form of divination, next to scrying, which is like crystal ball gazing, but you can use a bowl of water, preferably a wooden bowl, like a salad bowl. They want you to use a natural substance. A wooden bowl of water, you just gaze into it, and it has the effect of a crystal ball. The stone, obsidian, which is volcanic glass, which is black, which was used by the Aztecs and Mayans to form weapons and tools, very sharp, is also used in scrying. You can gaze, they make discs that you can order. It's a round, like a concave disc of obsidian that you look into, and you can, it becomes like a window to the astral world. But you can do the same thing with like a wooden bowl of water. I don't want to get too much into wrestling, Ronnie, because it's not a wrestling show. But yeah. Why can't women? Yeah, like Archie Bunker sang, and those were the days when women were women and men were men, something like that. Blah 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 blah. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Panties matches. Well, when I was a kid, they used to have midget wrestling mixed in with the, well, the ladies. There wasn't that much lady wrestling because the roster was small back then. There was the Fabulous Moolah and some others. It was a small roster, but the midget wrestlers, they were in great shape. They were strong, but they really were. Especially the famous Sky Low. He was the world's midget champion. Sky Low. Little Beaver. Little Beaver was the Indian. But anyway, yeah. For those that are unaware, Comrade Damien Third Eye Owens is a master of the tarot, and it's available on the internet for those that are just watching. He did the whole series, educational series on the tarot cards. Take a look at it. Ronnie S., I have an old school physical fitness group on Facebook where I put many old-time classic professional wrestling videos and martial arts, including full complete kung fu movies from China. The whole movie. When I see them, I put them on there. A lot of great old NWA, AWA, Worldwide Wrestling Federation. I put them all on the group. It's called the International Brotherhood of Pahlivans. Pahlavans. Pahlivans. And I put a lot of stuff. That's my old school fitness page where we promote drug-free, safe exercise. Okay. Sky Low was the legend of midget wrestlers.
Right.
He was from the Caribbean, I think.
I can tell we're winding down the show, so I want to leave everyone with this very funny thought. So I don't know if this is true or not, but if it is, this is absolutely hilarious. So one of my friends posted this, and I have no idea where in the world this county is from, but obviously the sheriff's deputies of this particular county are not the brightest light bulbs in the socket. So this post is from Benoit, I assume that's how you pronounce it, Benoit County Sheriff's Office. To whom is setting these non-permitted traps, please stop. We've already had to free Deputy Vanator twice this week. Also, as Deputy Fly found out, the powder on the powdered donuts you're using for bait is very hard to get out of our green uniforms. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding in this very delicate matter. And here's the picture that it has. So it looks like a box that's being held up by, it looks like some kind of thin stick. And there's a plate full of donuts. And on the side of the box, it says, free donuts. And I'm just thinking to myself, we don't live in a cartoon. So how in the world have they had to free a deputy named Deputy Vanator twice this week because of him succumbing to this trap of donuts? And then secondly, I don't know what this person is trying to do, but it's very suspicious that they say that the powder that you're using for the donuts that you're using for the bait is very hard to get out of our green uniforms. So, which makes me wonder, is it really powdered sugar? I don't think it is.
Ah. Is there an Officer Barney Fife on this force?
Oh, citizens arrest with my one bullet.
Oh my God. Oh, Roscoe P. Coltrane with Flash.
Roscoe Pico train.
Oh, speaking of, now, not speaking of Roscoe, but you remember when Donald Trump uh, has been defending Bernie Sanders, saying that the DNC is trying to screw over Bernie Sanders again, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like they did in 2016. And he sounds like he's actually helping Bernie Sanders, which he does speak the truth about the DNC because I don't trust him. But I know there's a selfish reason for it. I know he wants to go, you know what? In reality, Bernie Sanders would be a nightmare to Donald Trump to debate. He doesn't want really. If he had any brains, he would not want Bernie Sanders. He wanted to avoid him like the plague. But he's been defending him. So, do you does Donald Trump have any uh, things to say at all about his defense of Bernie Sanders against the DNC?
Okay, I guess it's time for me to do a Donald Trump impersonation. Let's see. Um, I don't know, James. You tell me. Does that social commie liberal have anything that he can use for his defense? And also, James, why are you supporting that terrible, awful social commie Bernie Sanders? Have you seen what he is? He's terrible, horrendous. Everything he does is just so horrendous. No one does more horrendous things than the Bernie, let me tell you. Me, I am so beautiful and so wonderful at everything, James. I have a gold-plated toilet in my Donald Trump tower to show I shit and piss excellence.
Well, Mr. Trump, President Trump, you call him crazy Bernie a lot. Is it because he's a socialist and he's the only socialist in the Democratic campaign? Is that why he's crazy?
Not only that, James, but because he's so horrible. No one does more horrible things than the Bernie. Me, even though I want to say I shit and piss excellence, I really am just as incompetent, if not more incompetent, than his rivals in the DNC.
Yeah. Well, Bernie Sanders says you are a pathological liar and corrupt as hell. I mean that. You're guilty of all the above: crony capitalism, corruption. I mean, you lie constantly. Every day you lie. I think there's over 10,000 lies since you've been president, and that includes your golf playing that you accuse Barack Obama of spending all his time on the golf course. But I think you beat Barack Obama's golf course record.
I don't know, James. People just want to just portray me as this horrend or this honorable, terrific, wonderful Donald Trump. And you know what? Honestly, I'm not wonderful. I'm not terrific. You see that guy over there? That crazy social commie Bernie Sanders? He has a chance at winning. Now, the other way that you want to present me, yes, I am a pathological liar. Pathological liar. Because you know why? I'm a businessman. That's what us businessmen do. No one does better business than the Donald. Trust me.
Now, is that hair on your head? Is it roadkill or is that actually your hair?
No, it is not my actual hair. It's a toupee. And if you keep making fun of it, James, and your social liberal commies, that Damian Owens, as well as Bernie Sanders, and even you, there will be hell to pay.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough for you, Trump. Trump pansy. That's enough for you. Ronnie S is saying good night. Good night, guys. Thundering Thursday will be Ronald J. Theriot because he's doing something on Friday. So there won't be a Fandango Friday. But yeah, I'll see you on Thundering Thursday. Eric Fraunfelter shows up for Thursday. Thomas Metal 75. It's like Love Potion #9. And that's it. Oh, divining rods. Divining rods. Hold on. Divining rods, copper divining rods. Do you predict, or I should just say, will Bernie Sanders end up winning the Democratic nomination for 2020? Okay. Will Bernie Sanders defeat Donald Trump in November of 2020? Will Bernie Sanders and his grassroots revolution change the quality of life for all Americans except the stingy, greedy, mega rich? I mean, mainstream quality of life? Yes. Would you put a nice juicy curse on CEO Dorsey of Twitter for terminating my Twitter account? Is it possible that you can like make him suffer a little bit for his corporate fascist censorship? All right, good. Okay, we will sign off. You will sign off. Oh, where are we? Where's Damien? There he is.
Here's Damien.
Comrade Damien, the Third Eye Owens. Oh, I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Fury of the United Kingdom for winning his heavyweight boxing title last night. Knocking the crap out of a man who talked a lot of shit about him. A lot of shit. Congratulations. Congratulations, and there's the cat. Now, I want to have all seriousness. Now, this saddened me tremendously. A pretty cute Indonesian girl, a maid that was working in Saudi Arabia, was recently executed by those murderous thugs of Saudi Arabia. She was beheaded. Young girl. It doesn't matter what reason they have, but this is an example of right-wing extremist religious fanaticism at its worst, being a zealot at its worst. This is pure evil wickedness, executing people, executing young, innocent women. They definitely treat women like worse than the family dog. They treat women like third-class citizens. Not even the family dog has more rights. They treat women horribly, and they murder people. They execute people based on a God that they have not proven to exist. And that goes for the right-wing fundamentalists, evangelicals in the Republican Party in the United States. A God that does not, a God that they have not proven exists, and killing people for it, like the Catholic Church supposedly is responsible for the murder of 50 million people in the history of the Catholic Church, Spanish Inquisition, so on and so forth. So a moment of silence for this poor girl. She was young, It's very sad. People are outraged about it, and I'm sure you're going to hear more about it in the news. And the Saudis, these are Donald Trump's buddies.
Also, Obama's buddies.
Oh, Obama had business with the Saudis?
Yeah. So many people have had business with the Saudis, Democrats and Republicans alike.
So the elitists can care less what happens to common folk as long as they make their big mamu, their big bucks.
Saudi Arabia and the Saudi royal family are some of the biggest terrorists out there. Do you think ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or any other terrorist group that's ever existed beforehand is bad? No, the Saudi government and the Saudi royal family are the biggest terrorists out there. They're basically like ISIS with oil money and an actual organized government.
Yeah, an organized crime government. The monarchy. It's the monarchy. Hey, King Henry VIII was no angel. You know, if you rubbed him the wrong way, he had people beheaded. Anne Boleyn is not the only one.
Exactly. To be honest, the Saudi royal family, they should be brought before military tribunals, account for every single crime they've committed, and be executed for what they've done.
You know, Iran hates them.
And I can understand why.
Iran, yeah, they have justifiable reason to hate them. And I am very happy that Iran is getting along splendidly with the Iraqi government now. And I think that Iran should totally fuck up Saudi Arabia. And all the Republicans can go fuck themselves if they want to send American soldiers, young men and women, to put their lives on the line for an evil regime, an evil people, an evil government. It's no one has been able to prove that their God exists. So to execute people in the name of a God that was not proven to exist is simply murder, cold-blooded murder. The petrodollar keeps the Fed running economy. Well, Republicans like to talk about the Fed a lot, right? I know they're not innocent bystanders, the Fed. Talking about the bank, right? He's talking about the Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia and the Saudi royal family. I mean, if this will be the last thing, I can tell we're probably wanting to go ahead and head off, but if we were going to actually do something as a result of 9/11, should we have actually declared war on Saudi Arabia and not Iraq? We were going to actually do something as a justification for war because of what happened.
Yeah, most of them were Saudis.
Exactly. Yeah, granted, there were some Egyptians and also a couple other countries involved, or individuals from other countries involved, but most of them were Saudi. So, I mean, shouldn't we have started looking there first, not looking at Saddam and his supposed weapons of mass destruction? Saddam had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. The only thing he did was point and laugh and joke at the fact that 9/11 actually happened. I mean, that's one thing, but he had nothing to do with 9/11. He gave no terrorist training, no funds, and in fact, he had nothing to do in terms of, plotting this terrorist plot. The only thing he did was poke fun of and joke about the fact that it happened. That's one thing. That's not a justification to go for war. Now, in fact, now there has been known as the redacted pages of the 9/11 report that, trace back Saudi money to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. So right then and there, that should just go to show that, we're doing business with the very same people that attacked us, that attacked our country. And we're in bed with them. So the whole entire war on terror is an absolute fraud. It's a joke. A joke that's costed trillions of dollars, and lots of unnecessary lives, all based on a lie.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, what I would have done is I would have conducted my own independent investigation. And then once I got all my evidence together, I would have gotten my top generals together and I would say, let's form a war strategy here in the Situation Room so we can go ahead and go in, topple this government, seize their money, and then seize their government, and then turn it back over to the Saudi people so they can have a peaceful, free, and democratic country. And if they want to do business with us, meaning we can still buy oil from them, fine. But we are going to topple the terrorists who were responsible for this atrocity in our country. That's what I would have done. So I would have made sure my war plan was in order. And then secondly, I would have went to Congress. I would have done it the constitutional way. I would have gone to Congress. I would have gone to the House of Representatives and said, here is evidence that we have that the Saudi government committed this atrocity on our country. I have a war plan drafted. All I need is your congressional approval for war. We can go in, do what needs to be done, and get the hell out of there. And you better believe, from the time that it was approved to the first boots on the ground, then I would have made sure by the time the first boot on the ground sat down, and by the time what needed to be done is done, less than 120 days. That is the most I would have said, if we're going to do this, here's the time constraints we've got. Let's form a plan, make it work, because here's the time it needs to happen in 120 days.
Tulsi Gabbard is in bed with the military-industrial complex. She's not as progressive anymore as she used to be. She's sounding more like a centrist. They found no weapons of mass destruction. No, that was just war for profit. Like Damian Owens said, the Saudis are the true enemies of the Middle East, the true wicked people of the Middle East, and guilty of terrorism towards the United States. And then they're making the world safe for democracy. Oh, and you're laughing at the end. Yeah, well, that's the excuse they use, the military-industrial complex with all the, 800, 900 military bases around the world, which is probably an occupation.
Yeah, the sun never sets on the American empire.
Yeah, every president since at least World War II was guilty of war crimes. Not FDR. The only mistake FDR made was putting the Japanese Americans into concentration camps. And I think he regretted that. A great point made by Noam Chomsky. FDR was a wonderful man. He started the regulations on corporations in order to defang the demons, to defang them. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be. Now, on the other hand, there were a couple of Republicans that were progressive. Dwight D. Eisenhower, even Teddy Roosevelt, in many ways, were progressive. But so, yeah, I would carpet bomb the hell out of the Saudis. Did they still save the old B-52 bombers, Damian Owens?
I don't know, but if they did, surprise, motherfuckers!
Tonnage, especially with the new modern bombs that they come down and then they split off into little mini bombs. Is that how it works? Big bomb ups and then they just.
Yeah, I would do that, but you have to be very careful not to. You have to be very careful not to detonate the oil fields, otherwise that'd be a big problem.
Yeah. What about, you know what's a great video? You ever see the video demonstrating the Warthog plane that could, the bunker busting, tank busting Warthog that the U.S. has? You ever see?
Yeah. I used one in my Arma 3 server one time. I demolished a whole town and left nothing but bodies in its wake. I was like, oh my god, this thing is OP as shit.
The Warthog.
But yeah, but it left a huge trail of destruction in its path.
Oh yeah, no. In real life, the Warthog is very formidable. But anyway, are you gonna do some? Are you gonna bang out a couple reviews tonight?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something. I'm gonna, decompress. I'm probably gonna go in here, shave. I haven't shaved in a couple days. I need to shave and probably grab a hot, steamy shower. And I will say this: if you take a hot, steamy shower and crack up an ice cold beer afterwards, it's actually a very interesting feeling because when you're hot and you're steamy and you just gotten out of the shower and you crack open that ice cold beer, is just, I don't know how to describe the feeling. Just try it one time and you'll see it for yourself.
Well, you deserve that beer because of the stress that you were under today. And do what you got to do. And now the beer that you will open up, did you already do a review on the beer that you're going to have later?
Well, let's see here. I had like a create your own 6-pack. I had like 3 IPAs. Now I've got 2 porters and a stout, but I don't know if I want to do those or if I want to do a couple of the other macro beers I've got laying in. Because I've got one I'm wanting to do a head-to-head on. It's called Hurricane High Gravity Lager. It's made by AB InBev. It's a 8.1% high gravity lager. And I have a 25-ounce tall boy, and I've got a 40-ounce bottle. I was going to do a head-to-head, but I don't know if I should have 65 ounces of 8.1% alcohol by volume beer this late at night, and also that much in one setting, because the most I've ever had of 8.1% was 60 ounces, and let's just say that kind of wasn't all that fun.
Is the head-to-head similar to the taste tests that Ronald J. Terrio does with hard liquor?
Similarly, yes. So what I do is, I got the idea for this challenge to test as to do certain cans or certain bottles actually affect the taste of the beer as compared to just pouring it into a glass. Now, whenever I drink beer, a lot of times I drink straight from the can or straight from the bottle if I'm not doing a review of it. But nothing beats pouring it into a glass. So what I do is, for this one I was planning on doing, taking a 25-ounce tall boy and then getting a 40-ounce bottle, letting them warm, cracking the 2 open, and just drinking straight from the 2 configuration to see if there is really a taste difference. And I've got another Hurricane tall boy. I've got a 12-ounce can to do, and then I gotta find either a 4-pack or 6-pack of pints so I can do the 12-ounce, 16-ounce, and 25-ounce can configuration to see, is there a taste difference? And I've already done it once. I did it with natural ice. I did it with the 12-ounce can, 16-ounce pint can. I did the 25-ounce tall boy as well. And I noticed that actually can size and can configuration actually does make a difference. And the winner came out to be the 25-ounce tall boy.
Well, of course, when you do a review, you should use a glass because you want the public to see the color of the beer, the head, the effervescence. You want to, get it close to the camera. But
yeah, I do that for reviews. Now, if I'm doing head-to-heads, I haven't done a review on this particular beer yet, although I probably should. But I mean, with the 40-ounce bottle, it's a clear bottle, so you can at least see what the beer looks like. And when you crack open the top, the carbonation does release, and a little bit of head forms up in the bottle, but nothing really too insane. But I do have some various bottle or some various mug configurations. So I have this mug, which I need to wash out. This is my 12 ounce and 16 ounce mug. Then I have a bigger mug, which is for tall cans. Then I have this really big mug, which is for quarts and 40s. This holds a whole 40-ounce bottle in this mug. So,
right. Oh, by the way, I was able to post, being that I'm the host of the show. It allowed me to post the URL of your article.
yay!
Yeah, in the public, so you don't have to do anything. So it's there, and that's it. So take your shave, shower, and do your review or whatever you plan on doing, and I'll talk to you.
All right.
All right. Good
Talk
night.
to you later. Good night, everyone.
Hold on. Let me. All right. Thank you for joining us for Progressive Discussions. This is Comrade James P. Madonna and Comrade Damian the Third Eye Owens saying good night.
Say good night.
Make sure you get out there and vote for Bernie Sanders. Don't vote for the corporatists. Don't vote for any of the corporatists. That's your best bet. Make it your business to vote. It doesn't take that long, really. Well, I should talk because I go and within minutes I vote. But there are people in America that have to wait on a long line. So I know I always say, oh, it's easy. It's a piece of cake. For me, it is. But it's really important to go, and do it. I mean, I know the senior citizens go early because they're early birds, and they get it over with. And if you're able to do it in the morning, do it. But I feel bad for the people that have to wait on long lines. But here in New Jersey, it's machine, it's electronic. Is there some kind of a system now where they're regulating the voting machines to make sure there's no chicanery going on? Or I really don't know. I know the paper ballot that's hand counted is more reliable. That's if the people counting it can be trusted. I don't know. I know in 2016 there were votes being flipped electronically. There were eyewitnesses that saw their votes being flipped. So that I believe. So I have no idea what's going on, but chances are the voting is so far honest because Bernie's been winning. So if the corrupt forces of evil want to cheat, they're not going to cheat and allow Bernie to win. So everything is probably working out like it should be so far. All right, Chief. Have a good night. I'll talk to you.
All right, talk to you.
All right.